Today is the octave day of Easter, and this is really a feast of the church year that we've been celebrating now for 8 days. For the Jewish people, when they celebrated an octave, the 8th day was the most celebrative of the days. Today, our church also celebrates Divine Mercy Sunday. In the midst of this celebration of the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, we are now asked to turn our attention again to God's mercy. Mercy has been obtained for us through the passion of Christ. It is a fact that God extends his mercy to anyone who asks. And yet at the same time, we have to recognize that it comes at a cost. And the cost is the cross. So as we look at the resurrection, one might wonder why in the midst of this celebration of the resurrection, all of a sudden we're turning again to look at the cross. But there is no contradiction, because you cannot celebrate the resurrection without celebrating the passion. The resurrection has no meaning without the crucifixion. And so there is nothing inherently contradictory about these two elements that the church celebrates on the same day. In fact, we are told by St. Peter today that it is the resurrection that grants us a new hope, that if the mercy of God is extended to each of us, we too will share in the glory of his resurrection. This Sunday of Divine Mercy is a feast day reflecting the mind and the heart of one person, and that is the heart and mind of Blessed John Paul II. The revelations, of course, were given to Saint Faustina Kowalska, but initially back in Poland, the local bishop had squelched this Divine Mercy devotion as he investigated these apparitions, trying to determine whether this would be a good way to pray. But at the same time, a new cardinal was elected in Krakow. That cardinal was Karol Wojtyła. Cardinal Wojtyła, recognizing the importance of this particular devotion to divine mercy, allowed it once again to be publicly spread. And he, of course, made it so when he became the Pope. Early in his pontificate, he spread this devotion to divine mercy beyond the confines of his diocese in Poland to the whole world. Some of his detractors may say that all he has done is to make a Polish devotion for the whole world and forced it on us. But he gives us a very good reason why we need to celebrate this Sunday of Divine Mercy. He explains that the very reason why he brought these devotions to the whole world was because in the face of all of the horrors of World War II and the Holocaust, in the face of all of the sinfulness in our society, that there has never been a time when mercy was more necessary. There has never been a time when people had more of a purpose and a need to call out to God for mercy. And it is by no coincidence that Pope Benedict chose this day for the beatification of John Paul II. But of all of the apostles, perhaps doubting Thomas experienced this mercy most dramatically. Thomas was angry that Jesus had failed. He was brooding over that failure, nursing his anger in sorrow and solitude. So when he finally heard the news of the resurrection, he wouldn't accept it. Unless I see the marks of the nails, I will not believe. And so a week later, on the second Sunday of the resurrection, Thomas is with the other disciples, still locked inside their fears and doubts. Jesus comes through the locked doors and wishes them peace. And then what does he do? Right after he greets the whole group, his very next words are for Thomas. "Touch my wounds, Thomas. Believe in me." And what do you think were in Jesus' eyes at that point? I think he was smiling. He was glad to oblige Thomas's stubborn request. He wasn't offended by the apostles' hesitation and resistance. He was just eager to have his faith back. And Thomas sees this, and he sees that Christ humbly lowers himself to his level, letting him touch him, letting him feel Christ's real physical presence. And Thomas falls on his knees and is the first apostle to proclaim his faith in Christ's divinity, calling him my Lord and my God. All of us are like Thomas. All of us resist God's action in our lives in one way or another. Sometimes we get angry with God. Sometimes we don't trust God. Sometimes we rebel against him. And it has been precisely these moments and in these corners of our lives where Jesus wants to show off his boundless mercy. He comes down to our level to win back our faith. We are all children of this God whose mercy, goodness, and power are boundless, persistent, and untiring. And he wants us to be like him. We have had the grace to experience God's mercy through the sacraments, through prayer, through being taught the good news about Jesus Christ. But there are still many people around us who haven't had that grace, or maybe have forgotten about it. We are given this feast of divine mercy to recommit ourselves to spreading that mercy even just a little bit. Remember the words to Jesus in that upper room on that Easter Sunday night. As the Father has sent me, so I send you. We all have relationships that are not exactly marked with mercy. We all know relationships that are marred by indifference or envy or resentment. This week, why not take the first step toward reconciliation with prayer, words, or actions? Why not follow in the footsteps of Jesus, not waiting for others to take the first step, but by doing so ourselves? Just like Jesus, who held out his hand to Thomas, we can show others by our courage and our humility the face of Christ, our merciful Lord. In his conversations with St. Faustina, Jesus promised to unleash on the world a flood of mercy. He has been doing so, and he wants to continue to do so. But this flood hasn't yet reached every heart. This week, let's be conscious channels of that flood, clear pipelines for that mercy to refresh someone's shriveled or dried up heart. If in today's Mass we put ourselves at Christ's service for this purpose, I am sure that he will give you plenty of opportunities to carry it out. And in case you doubt just a little bit, keep ever on your lips that very simple prayer that Jesus gave to St. Faustina. Jesus, I trust in you.